You must leave me that post at Pooh sighted tonight. Stay at the brazing, everyone. Attack Pooh. Inform Pooh that he is awake as well. You guys must think I'm up to something, so let Pooh know like that. You're not even a mobster. You're tripping, boy. You are as pathetic as HoneyComb and Pooh. Brazy beef has become lethal. Pooh High is being called out by HoneyComb Brazy on the block in Mobile, Alabama. Furthermore, the song you just heard isn't a diss track. It's not a dispute on Twitter. It's not two rappers engaging in business politics. A street preacher is standing outside once more, declaring that he is prepared to die by whatever he is claiming right now in the world. This man has already buried his grandparents. For some reason, the silence in the room is the loudest thing at the moment while these two men move. You'll know exactly how we got here by the time I finish breaking this down for you all today. Because there was no diss track at the beginning of this beef. It didn't begin with a tweet. It began years before any of us were aware of the networks that connect deep within the streets. Memphis, Tennessee to Mobile, Alabama in ways that most people are unaware of. Allow me to explain. Remain confined. Okay, group. You need to know more about both of these men than just their rap resumes in order to comprehend why that live hit was unique and why HoneyComb's words had more weight than those of other rappers. The truth. Brazy HoneyComb. Mobile, Alabama. I was born and reared in one of the Gulf Coast's toughest areas. This man has been using social media to chronicle his life since before it became a content strategy. HoneyComb was just doing it because it was his reality, not because it was a platform to portray the trenches live. His articles, songs, and lives all reflect a life that most people only witness in documentaries. He's not acting genuinely. He never acquired the ability to be anything else. However, this is what sets HoneyComb apart from all other street rappers you've ever heard. The ultimate payment for his life has already been paid by this man. And by personally, I don't mean legally. In a way that fundamentally alters a person and prevents them from ever returning. Tony and Isa Lewis, the grandparents of HoneyComb Brazy, were killed in their Mobile home in Alabama in February 2021. And the entire rap community was taken aback by how it transpired. Darren Southall, an alleged drug lord, sent a gunman to that residence for the express purpose of communicating with HoneyComb via his family. They started shooting. Several oxygen tanks kept inside the house were hit by the bullet. The tanks burst. The house caught fire. Layla Lewis and Tony were never able to get together. Two elderly individuals who had nothing to do with any of it lost their lives as a result of the trigger. A Facebook post by HoneyComb's acquaintance that infuriated the wrong man. And this man is standing on that foundation. HoneyComb's statement that he is prepared to die as a result of his claims during that live performance is not an example of a rapper employing menacing language for impact. Due to his lifestyle, that man has already witnessed the death of his family, who has come to terms with that defeat, who has seen the worst scenario up close, and who has made the decision to continue not to run. It alters the sound of every single word on that line. So keep that in mind for everything that follows. One of the coolest artists to emerge from South Memphis in a generation is now pushing Shy, South Memphis. Back in Blood, signed to Gucci Mayonnaise in 2017. More quickly than nearly anyone from his city, the Guard Up Twerksome moved from the hood to platinum albums. Legends have always come from Memphis, but Pooh had something unique. Mainstream popularity and street credibility locked down simultaneously. The federal firearms accusation followed. He served his time. He returned home. In an effort to recreate what the Fed stopped, he has been rebuilding new music and re-establishing relationships with his followers. On the surface, he appears to be a man who prioritizes his profession over everything else and is totally focused on his future. Then, from a block away in Mobile, Alabama, HoneyComb Brazy begins to pronounce his name. This is the actual T, which is entirely absent from practically all of the coverage of the event. There was no diss track at the beginning of this beef. It didn't begin with a dubious Instagram comment or a cryptic lyric. Before each of these individuals had a record deal, it initiated an invisible cabling that connected Memphis street networks to Alabama ones for years. Memphis and Mobile are perceived by many as two distinct worlds, states, and cultures. Here's what they don't know about the real movement of the South, though. Alliances, old money, people who grew up in one city and moved to another, and artists who pursued similar occupations and wound up in each other's orbit are the ways that these places are connected. HoneyComb, whether they wanted to or not. Brazy was already known to be at odds with some musicians who worked in the same Memphis area circles as Pooh High. These rivalries extend beyond the music industry. These are circumstances that have actual street weight that transcends state boundaries. Additionally, the rules in street culture are straightforward and unbreakable. You inherit that smoke if your people are at odds with someone. When members of your circle are involved, you cannot claim that it is not your concern. Before you even speak, the alliance decides for you. Thus, Memphis is not neutral territory on the planet that HoneyComb is already traveling through. Pooh Shiesty is then included in the calculation. In particular, you include Big 30, the man who is essentially Pooh's brother. Big 30 is more than just a label. Buddy. Since before either of them made a bargain, he and Pooh have referred to one another as brothers. The other smoke naturally follows where the first one goes. It's only the code. However, this particular element immediately links Alabama to the Big 30 and alters the entire scenario. Big 30 was detained while traveling from Memphis to Birmingham, Alabama, in October 2020. Drugs, cash, and a loaded gun in a car. Although Birmingham is in the same state, it is not transportable. And that presence is important in the landscape of Southern street politics. It reveals that Pooh Shiesty's brother, who is his closest running companion, has been traveling through Alabama, has ties to the state, and has a history there, all of which are based on the code that these two men uphold. Whether he chose it or not, Pooh is skin and everything that occurs in that state. Combine all of that with HoneyComb's current conflict with nearby circles in Memphis. The Big 30 has been known to be in Alabama. Pooh High and the Big 30 are inseparable. Mobile and Memphis have long-standing overlapping OP networks. It was inevitable that these two men would find themselves in each other's circle. It was never an if question. When the time came, it was only a matter of what would ignite the match and when. At that point, the story transitions from street politics to something nearly unbelievable. Are you all set? Because you wouldn't predict the event that escalated all of that underlying tension into a full-fledged public altercation. It all began with a video game. In a virtual game, Pooh Shiesty allegedly ran up on HoneyComb Brazy, physically assaulted him, and then publicly humiliated him online. I understand your thoughts as well. A video game? This began because of that. Here's what you should know, though. That kind of public humiliation, regardless of the venue, is a test in the environment these men live in. It's a prod. Someone is prodding you and observing to see if you recoil. It's like walking on someone's Jordans in a club and then laughing about it. It's a purposeful indication. You are not rated by us. Furthermore, HoneyComb Brazy has never failed to respond to such a signal. As a result, you could hear it in his voice from the moment he went live outside on the block. This dude is not acting enraged for the camera. He added, "This is a man who has made a decision." Additionally, I'm drawing straight from the live stream here. Right now, you're meant to be heading up. I must seem like a joke to you all. When it comes to real life, you don't pop it back, even though you have everything in the world and are criticizing my people in a video game. You people are like that. Yes, there was a decoration. That was HoneyComb publicly marking a boundary in the sand and challenging the opposing team to cross it. However, life changed into something much more illuminating when HoneyComb began discussing his own city, Mobile, Alabama, and his own people instead of Pooh's side. At this point, you truly experience the full impact of what's taking place. Every time I say something, you go up on Brazy. You only want to go at me, but you won't go at Pooh. You're letting out a town. Come play with Alabama like that. And you don't pop it back. You're some hose, he added. That's a man who feels abandoned by his own city in real time. And if you know anything about street psychology, that's the most dangerous emotional state a man like HoneyComb can be in. Now, it's not just about Pooh Shiesty. It's about whether Mobile has his back and whether everything he has given to that city, including the lives of his grandparents, means anything to those around him. At the end of that live, he stated something that should have stopped everyone cold. I'm ready to die by that. The pressure is coming from everywhere at once, not just from the outside. You've got me. Boy, kill me. Yeah, I'm on that for real. This is a man who buried his grandparents due to a Facebook post, and he is still standing there on the block live, saying he won't move. That's not a rapper using threatening language for effect. He knows better than almost anyone alive what these situations can become when they leave the internet and find the physical world. That is a man who has already come to terms with the worst possible outcome. This is where people began making the connections. And I need you all to pay close attention because this goes far beyond a live social media tirade. HoneyComb first mentioned LDO on that live, And if you are familiar with the world of mobile street politics, you know that name is not arbitrary. The fact that HoneyComb is mentioning LDO in the same sentence as criticizing Pooh Shiesty camp indicates something crucial. This beef has already spread beyond two people, touching organizations and hoods. These are affiliations, organizations with real geography, real history, and real membership that predates any rap career. Second, HoneyComb mentioned Pop and Smoke throughout the performance, saying, "Long live Pop and Smoke." These are heartwarming allegiances that have nothing to do with music and everything to do with who controls what in Mobile, Alabama. We actually smoke. That appears to be a tribute at first glance. But pay attention to the context in which he said it. After discussing pulling up and being honest about it, he said it outright. That is not an homage. That's code. That's HoneyComb telling you that no matter the cost, he and his people move like Pop and Smoke. And everyone in this civilization is aware of Pop and Smoke's exact fate. It is not a memorial, that invocation. It serves as a caution. Thirdly, everyone ought to have been more attentive at this point. On that live, HoneyComb made it very clear that this had nothing to do with rap. That Alabama stuff has nothing to do with brazing. I'm in my own lane. This isn't rap smoke. This isn't about music, he declared. You have to take it at face value when a man with a platform, a fan base, a career, and everything to gain from keeping things in the music industry says, this is not about music. This means that any solution to the problem won't come from a labeled phone call or a diss track. It must take place through the mechanisms that the streets use to settle disputes. Additionally, compared to the internet, those channels are far less forgiving. Then there's the shy stillness. Some readers seem unconcerned, as if he's too focused on making a return to get sucked into turmoil. However, the streets are more knowledgeable about this alternative reading. Men who disregard actual circumstances are not produced in Memphis. Pooh Shiesty did not create what he created, endure what he endured, return home from a federal prison, and begin rebuilding by being someone who ignores important issues. He may not be at rest while he is silent. It could be something completely else that is being discreetly planned. Okay, what is the current status of this? HoneyComb Brazy hasn't given up. Hasn't taken a single step back. Has not made any public attempts to squelch anything. Outside on the block, he recorded his position and left it visible to all. By now, an individual who desired an escape ramp would have located one. He's not trying to find one. Following his bid, Pooh Shiesty has continued to act as though he is committed to rebuilding his career. The momentum of new music fan interaction is rebuilding. On the surface, it appears to be a cunning move in which a man chooses his future above a confrontation. Here's the issue, though. Silence is tranquility, but HoneyComb doesn't understand that. He reads avoidance. Additionally, avoidance does not lessen the strain in the culture that both of these men work in. It causes it to build up. Every day that goes by without a conclusion. Until something gives, the tension increases. You may learn everything from what transpired on social media following the live drop. Mobile was split up. A few individuals are standing alongside Brazy. He's moving incorrectly, according to some. Some are observing from a distance while remaining strangely silent. One and Memphis. There are 7 nearby guards. It is being viewed as entertainment by spectators. And somewhere beneath all that cacophony, decisions about where they stand and what they are ready to do about it are made by real individuals in real cities. When you sit through all of this, the thing that strikes you the most is what HoneyComb stated, almost casually, about that facade. He claimed that Bra's only goal was to reunite the city. Going in, that was a declared intention. He had no intention of inciting conflict. He felt irritated. When all he was attempting to do was construct anything, he felt degraded. He felt like he was clowned as he reached out for togetherness. And here we are now. A man who desired community found himself in conflict. A man who buried his grandparents due to a Facebook post is now embroiled in a social media controversy. Anyone who has been paying close attention may see how ironic that is. This is where I urge you all to take a moment and zoom out with me, since this conflict is only one aspect of a larger cultural phenomenon. A Facebook post led to the murder of HoneyComb Brazy's grandparents. Nor a shooting, nor a diss track. 2 elderly individuals who had nothing to do with it perished in a fire in their own home after a post from someone in their social circle infuriated the wrong person. HoneyComb is the only person alive who truly understands what occurs when words from the internet enter the real world. Nevertheless, we are witnessing the same man who experienced that buried those individuals, and is fully aware of the potential consequences of this. Here we are witnessing him once more engage in a public altercation on social media on a video game-related issue. Because of the world we live in, the platforms that encourage engagement, whether it be peaceful or violent, have clout and authenticity. Once you come forward in public, it is nearly impossible to back down in that culture. Backing down in public is perceived as weakness in these neighborhoods, and weakness is more harmful than the beef itself. These two men are currently ensnared in the trap. Honeycomb felt disrespected in public, so he went public. Pooh Shy must now decide how to respond to a public challenge without appearing weak or allowing the situation to go out of control. On the board, there isn't a clean move. That's precisely why this is so unstable. I will say this. HoneyComb Brazy is not a rough guy. His record is marked by losses that cannot be produced and by things that cannot be faked. Memphis, where Pooh Shiesty hails from, has never produced men who crumble under duress. Understand that both of these men have something at stake that extends far beyond streams, views, and social media clout, regardless of how the issue turns out. Real people know what's real. Additionally, neither of them is currently willing to be the first to blink. What comes next? Then, in the best scenario, someone with genuine credibility gets in touch. Someone who is truly respected by both parties. There is a discussion that takes place outside of social media. And both guys manage to stop this before it gets to a place from which no one can return. It does occur. The real ones speak. When the appropriate individuals are involved, real beefs are eliminated. And pride is put aside. In the worst situation, I don't have to explain it. You are already aware. You can see that the worst-case scenario in these men's lives is not a metaphor if you've been paying attention to everything I just described, including the grandparents, the oxygen tanks, the Facebook post that began it all, the Major 30 Alabama connection, and the LDO angle. It's a real place where actual people go. This is what I am confident of. The performance of HoneyComb Brazy is lacking. This isn't what he's doing for the algorithm. This man has already given the streets more than anyone ought to have to. And he continues to assert his place on the block. Furthermore, Pooh Shiesty did not become the man he is today through negligence. Whatever is now taking place on his end, it is not insignificant. A Memphis man's silence does not equate to his peace. It's a living predicament. It's in motion. And everything we need to know about the outcome of this will be revealed by the next development, whether it comes from either direction. Stay tuned, everyone. Be careful. And if there are sincere individuals on both sides of this, I hope it ends peacefully. Look for something else. If this clarified everything for you, please like the video. If you're new, subscribe. Every week, I dump them unfiltered. And let me know in the comments whether you think this goes left or gets smashed. And is it planning, or is it just Pooh's quiet peace? Tell me.